All right, looks like we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian, and this is essentially it's our call-in show. We decided to move the call-in show away from Discord, at least for a while, to see if it's a better way to do things, and then over to X, where there's more free speech and there's like more people, and we can take your chats, your thoughts, your comments, whatever the case may be. And I'm just looking to see how we're doing here, and just sort of taking the temperature of the community. The community. My videos are public right now, but for some reason there is no one here. I got 2 people on the vertical, 8 people on the standard one, a few on Rumble. So, I mean, I'll give you guys some time to get in before we start talking. I'll go for about an hour today. And but before we start, I'm going to ask that you guys please like the stream and share it around so that other people might see it. We've been doing this for 13 years now or more. I mean, Allison's been doing it longer. I know I've been doing it for like 13 years. And we're seeing some I think that there's some real change happening, some real good effects happening, but it's still, it's still like a long ways off, obviously. So just trying to, we still need help. We're up against, 3-letter agencies and throttling from big tech, and there seems to be a lot of controlled opposition out there, like a lot of, channels that are supposedly red pill that kind of came out of nowhere and they're blowing up. And I think that there's, a desire, or design rather, to take control of the message that we're trying to put out there. And there's a lot of ways to do that. You can censor your opponents, or you can put out someone that has like a prettier face, or like a better, maybe a slicker message, and yet it's more sort of feminist friendly. And that's usually where they land. That's what's happening right now, actually. There's a lot of like, this kind of like, I don't know how else to describe it other than controlled opposition going around. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to get in. I see we have a few people: Morgan, James, Be Real, Casually, Divine, and John. Welcome to everyone. I see a request. I see your request there. I'm going to look at those in a moment. But first, I wanted to share a few things that I've been seeing around. So one thing I noticed on X, and maybe this is the algorithm, because if you're on any platform, the algorithm is telling you what it thinks you want to hear. So it's hard to tell whether or not this is like something that's becoming more common, or if it's just something where the algorithm is trying to like feed me, what I'm looking for. Now, normally when I go on any like social media, it's rife with misandry. That's like kind of mainstream, kind of normal. You'll see it everywhere. But I've noticed lately there's less of that. I mean, a little bit of rage bait here and there, but it doesn't, it never really bothered me. I just see it as a normal thing. But I have seen a lot of people talking about basically the issues that we discuss in a more sympathetic way, and that's I think that's really heartening. And I am seeing that more. I have an example here I'm going to show you guys. Those of you guys who are looking, or who are in the X space, I don't know how to share that with you guys, unless there is a way. I'm not sure, but I'm sharing it with the people watching at home, on YouTube, on X, on Rumble, Facebook, all the places that we stream to. So I have this clip from Timcast News. So like, one of the things we've been talking about lately on the news show are all the happenings in Minneapolis. Now, I mean, who knows what my co-hosts are going to say, but in my opinion, I try to look at these events through the lens of sexual dynamics that are happening, the sexual dynamics at play, because those are the things that often get ignored. Those are the things that often end up on the sidelines, right? Like they will talk about the race of people, they'll talk about their immigration status, they'll talk about all these other things, but they won't actually look at what I think is the most interesting thing, which is, how many women are there involved? How many men? What's the proportion? What's the general sort of like, tone and tenor of it all? And yeah, I noticed, I mean, a lot of people are noticing that when you have these big protests and you have like people discussing things on social media, there's a disproportionate feminine presence there. And it's worth observing. It's worth asking the question, like, why is this happening? And there is a woman, let me see if I don't want to butcher her name, Lisa Elizabeth, so it's actually pretty straightforward. It's a weird couple of names. Lisa Elizabeth was on Tim Pool's show, and she had this to say about women.
Women do not like to see people penalized, and they are the ones that are absolutely fueling this entire thing. I wanted to go over it, and I'll pull it up now just because I was going to do it later, but we'll pull it up now. We have this happened in 2006, right? The brain scans reveal men's pleasure and revenge. I love how that you could tell a feminist wrote this, right? But that's not really what the experiment says. So they did like a game, and they repeated play game, and later they hooked the participants up and like to have their like an MRM machine to have their brain scanned. And when they would penalize people who played fairly, both men and women showed empathy. The empathy receptors in the brain went off. When they did somebody who cheated, men didn't really have that much empathy for those being like, oh, they were shocked with electrical impulses. They didn't have any like a ton of empathy for that. They almost had a little pleasure in the fact that they were getting punished. But women, their empathy response almost didn't change. They were as empathetic for the people who played fairly being punished as they were for the people that cheated being punished. And that's kind of what we're seeing broadly. Like, what I really want to focus on that I don't see a ton of people talking about is that women are the people that are fueling this entire thing. And I have people saying to me that, it is 100% like these big funders and the backers and the NGOs and all these like globalist world order people throwing money. That's fine. They can throw as much money as they want into it. But if you don't have these crazy women on TikTok, literally like crying and being insane and calling for, like this nurse we're going to talk about later, calling for people to be like ICE agents to be injected with things. We saw it in a different case earlier in the year where a healthcare worker said she was going to not take care of MAGA people. I mean, if you don't have these women doing this, there is no fuel. Women are 100% the gasoline thrown on the fire to keep this going. And we need to fix that. Like,
100%. And here's the thing that I love about this. She said that. Like, that's like huge. I don't care who you are, what you say, but the fact that someone would even say that, to say that women are absolutely fueling it, and here's why, that is incredible. I mean, that's incredible. Like, to me, that's like a massive, you would not have seen that like in 2016, even though this kind of stuff was going on in 2016, right? You would not have seen that. And now you have this Lisa Elizabeth woman. I don't think that she's unique. And she's just like, and she brings up the study, which we have talked about on the show, like a long time ago, because this study's from 2006, that showed, just to reiterate in case you guys are listening, didn't hear it, they did this study where they hooked up a bunch of men and women to electric shock things on their, like, and they had them playing a game. And they had another group of men and women that were watching them do this. And there were some people were cheating and some people were, not cheating. They were playing fair. And when someone was penalized for whatever reason, whether or not they were like cheating or not, they would get a shock. And the way that it turned out is that when innocent people were punished, innocent people who were not cheating, when they were punished, both men and women felt empathy for them. But when someone who was cheating was punished, the men didn't. In fact, they were a little happy because it was like justice in their eyes, but the women were still empathetic to them. So this is actually what's playing out, right? You have people who are criminal, people who are essentially cheating, by getting into the country illegally or whatever it is that's happening. Like, it doesn't have to be the immigration issue. this is the thing, like the issue is never about the issue. There's always something going on that involves someone doing something untoward, and they're getting what men would see as their just desserts, like justice is being served. But women don't understand that as well, and so they tend to empathize with those people and even see them as victims, which is what we're seeing, playing out in like the meta sense over here in Minneapolis, New York, LA, like all over the country. And on top of that, I really like that she says, yes, there's everybody's talking about how they're getting funded by globalist NGOs and these big organizations and these corporations and governments, and they're all like pouring money into this stuff. Yeah, all that's true, and it is. But at the end of the day, individuals make a decision whether or not to support that, and the women are 100% on board. And it reminds me of when James O'Keefe, of formerly of Project Veritas, but now of O'Keefe Media, he went undercover to Minneapolis recently, and he was there to sort of like cover the event, and he tried to blend in with his guys and go, but essentially just see what was going on. And like shortly after he got there, the people in the mob, or the protesters, they got his license plate, they traced who he was, they got his name, and they confronted him. So like he rented the car, so they were able to do it through the rental place, I guess, and figure out who he was, which meant the rental place was in on it for whatever reason. And they confronted him, and then he told them that he was press, and and showed all of his credentials and everything. And they discovered that he was apolitical, which that was their discovery. They're like, well, he's not on a political side. He's just press. He's just covering it. But in fact, and James O'Keefe said this himself, he confirmed that even though he was going there as apolitical, in the eyes of the protesters, which was as predominantly led by women and involved women who had more free time, he was the enemy because he wasn't on their side. So being neutral wasn't good enough, right? And we also have other studies where, so we have the one study I talked about where women give as much empathy to cheaters as they do people playing fairly. Then there's another study that shows that women are more likely to support political assassinations. This was another one of these that came out recently. Like the study was done with the intention of trying to understand what the ideological components were, and it turned out that there was a bigger, let's say, gap between men and women in advocating for political violence than there was in the left and the right. So it was more about men and women than it was about political per se, although it was far more leftist women that were in favor of political violence. In fact, they often call for it. And this is another thing too, is that people are discovering that, despite men being physically stronger than women, it doesn't mean that women are less capable of violence. And I know that we know that because, we've been doing this for a long time, but the truth is it bears out in, the data that women do support it more, and they do it on the people who are weaker than they are, or they do it to people in a different way. And a lot of, when it comes to the political violence, they do it by advocating for violence. So, a woman won't necessarily go and try to kill someone, but they will go on social media and ask people to kill people or tell them how they can. I saw a video of a nurse that was talking about how you can use a syringe to assassinate, members of ICE if you wanted to. And she was showing how it could be done. And of course she phrased it as hypothetical, but not really. It was pretty sloppy. And I don't know if she's going to get picked up for this or not, but I did see the video going around. And another thing is that, let me look at the chat here. Say hello to the people watching. Hello, Mangaka, Gabriel, Phelan Lucas, Great Indoors, Matt Watton, hello, Night Motorcyclist, and Last Independent Thinker. I just finished watching Dr. Steve Turley vid about the far left. Basically, they're all coddled psychopaths. Yeah, the nurse got fired. Okay, so you did see the nurse thing that I was talking about. Yeah. Another study that I have here that I thought was really, I gotta skip this. Came out of Fire, and it's entitled "Male Students Show More Tolerance for Political Enemies Than Females Show for Their Own Allies." And again, not surprising. So, and look, the whole thing, I'm not just doing this to shit on women. I'm basically just reminding people that like women are capable of these things, and we have to stop acting like they aren't. And I mean, I think it's absolutely crucial that we do. Um, so it looks like some people left the X chat. I'm sorry, I was just giving some people time to get in here. Do you still want to, if you still want to say anything, raise your hand or request to speak, and I'll give you the floor while I look at what you guys are saying. Last Independent Thinker says there was a was a female professor here in Oz who wanted to do a study of female psychopaths, and she received death threats. I saw a video that just was released, and again, we've already covered this stuff, but it's great to see that other people are waking up to this more and more as well. So you may have heard of Simone and Malcolm Collins based camp. They're a couple that have a lot of kids, and they're very nerdy. They're like these this nerdy couple, and they do a lot of they talk about research and stuff. Oh, you guys are coming back. Welcome back. If you guys want to say anything, raise your hand. I'll take your calls now or your thoughts. And they just released a video saying proof science lied. Men are an underclass and discriminated against. And these guys are, pretty big channel. And on top of that, Andrew Wilson was recently on Joe Rogan's podcast. And, say what you want about him, but he has advocated for men, and he's also credited us with things. And that's also very promising. So they're discovering this. And in the Malcolm Collins video, they talked about how much more violent women can be in domestic violence situations as well. And this is the thing, like us being able to change the laws or get these policies re-examined and, hopefully changed in some way to be more just for men. And to do that it starts with the acknowledgement of women as agents that can do evil and the acknowledgement that men can also be the victims of that, right? Without necessarily playing into the victim politics, identity politics of victimhood. Not just because I find it distasteful and despicable, but also because I don't think it's effective, and I don't think men want that. I think that even men who have problems, they don't want to be seen that way, but they just want to get the help. Like if you're stuck on the road and your car has a flat, you don't want someone to pull over and like weep with you. You just want someone to like give you a hand so that you can get on with it, right? So that's what I think anyway. Last Independent Thinker says, what about Esther Viller and her book, The Manipulated Man in the 60s, 70s? Same thing. Yes, but also a very that's quite the book. I read it a while back. And you're right. That's definitely the same. But like what I'm saying is we're seeing it now more again among like pretty normal people, I would guess, and not people who sort of like specialize in this topic like Esther Viller did, right? This is like, this is just someone that was on Tim Pool's show. And I think that is, I don't know. I think that's really something. It's like warming to understand. Here's another clip from her where she talks about how women rely on social norms for protection. And this is like, and because they're all about conformity.
The other thing that they're doing, they're going out and protesting in the streets, saying, like, acting like a big tough man. Like, I can be a man too. I can stand up to these ICE agents, right? But in the meantime, they rely on social norms that men won't hit women, right? So they get surprised. Oh, they're using fake bullets. How come they're using real bullets? Like, what do you think? This is a game? The threat of violence isn't really on the table for them, and they fail to realize that. They are ruining everything.
We're too comfortable. As a society, we're literally too comfortable, and people are too out of touch. They don't understand why there aren't strangers kicking down their door and raiding.
No, this guy, no, dude. Women are too comfortable. Not men. Not we. I hate this. Like everybody is too comfortable. No, no, no. Men understand the stakes. Men understand the risk. This is why men don't like generally just run up on armed cops and just start pushing them around. Like because men understand the consequences. That's why they don't go around like threatening to kick people's asses because they might get their ass beat. Women do that because they think that they're immune to consequences. Like that's the reason. So the obviously this guy is just ugh. Oh yeah, here's the paralytic drug nurse lady right here. Here's the article. So Morgan, John, did any of you guys wanted to say anything? I see that you're in here. People are like jumping in and out, and I want to give you guys a chance to talk. Last Independent Thinker says maybe there's a pattern. Men understand that letting it go comes at a cost. Yeah. Esther Viller's second book is even more spicy. Wish her third book had been translated from German. Of course, a German woman would do that. So yeah. Oh, here we go. We have one other listener here. I don't know who that is, so I'm gonna wait. Let's see what you guys are saying while I wait and see if anybody wants to speak up over here. I feel a little bit alone. This video is only gonna be live for another half hour, guys. So don't wait. Here's a interesting clip of Andrew Tate. Give a listen to this while I wait and see if anybody has any desire to speak.
Nobody's having children. The birth rate has collapsed. The world is literally imploding. It is literally over for humanity. Nobody talks about this. And the reason nobody talks about it is because it puts a burden of responsibility on females, which we are not allowed to do in society. If you put a burden of responsibility on females, you're the devil. If I told you that all of society was about to implode because aliens have come, and aliens are going to destroy everything, and there's going to be no humans left.
I believe in aliens.
Okay, good. So we need to conscript all of the men and give them guns to go and die against an alien invasion to protect society. You would sit and say, yeah, normal. Everyone's going to die. Men have to go and fucking protect us. That's normal. If I sit and say society is going to implode, in 100 years there's going to be no one left on Earth because women aren't having babies, someone should tell women to have babies, you're going to get offended instantly. How could you possibly expect women to have any desire to propagate the human race? How can you possibly expect women to have any burden to continue humanity? No, women have no burden. Women cannot be expected to do anything. All they should do is take Instagram pictures, spend a man's money, fucking make TikToks, unimportant bullshit, which doesn't even benefit anybody. And that's the truth of the world we now live in. No woman at the age of 18 in America, if I were to walk down Miami and say, who wants kids at 18? Nobody. And that's why the world's fucked. Nobody's having children.
I mean, I know he's not liked by a lot of people, but I've been saying that for years. I've been saying it for years. It's not even that like crazy a notion, but I guess because it came out of his mouth, we have to just throw it out. It's just, we have to ignore it. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. But again, like, I think that being said is very important, okay? Last Independent Thinker says, not a Tate fan. Yeah, but did he say something that was untrue? That's the only thing that matters. Did he lie or not? I mean, that's all that matters. Like, it should, like, if we just acknowledge it as a true thing that is good to have been said, then maybe people we like will start saying it too. Because then they'll feel like you need someone to say some things that are verboten in order for other people to like grow the spine to say it that are less verboten, like those people are less, like, I guess, radioactive. I mean, I've been saying it for years, but nobody knows who the hell I am. So Mangaka says, correct, birth rate collapse is as big an existential threat as a foreign army. Hell, as an alien horde, which is how he compared it. Did you hear that one bimbo say, I believe in aliens? That's like, way to not listen to what's actually being discussed. She's just like, I believe in aliens, as she's like powdering her nose. Yeah, exactly. The problem in one microcosm right there, guys talking about something really important, chick chimes in with absolutely nothing to add. Okay, Richard Bier says maybe women are more empathetic to cheaters because they want to be able to get away with cheating / rules violations themselves to obtain power. I think it's because women don't care about systems in that they don't care about the systems of, you know, like law and like I don't want to say fairness, but like honor. Like they don't like those things don't matter to them as much as context and like, you know, people being served what they need at the time. Like it's a different set of priorities, which is why, like, you know, men. I think it's to be to let's say to deliver justice, right, dispassionately, is difficult work, but I think men are better equipped. Like, for example, I think there's a tendency for women in law to be a lot worse for due process, right? Like lawyers and judges, female judges and lawyers. And I bet you guys in the chat are going to agree. I know a few people are going to say something about that. And it's because, well, first of all, there is like a desire to benefit personally, but also even if you take the corruption out of it, because that's like a different thing, and you're just looking at it in terms of like, you know, I don't know, delivering sentences or prosecuting or defending, plaintiffs or whatever, the women are not as likely to be objective ultimately. So it's like a lack of objectivity. Mangaka says women don't care about justice in the abstract, only what benefits themselves. Egregious Charles says, I can't stand him, but it doesn't mean that clip was incorrect. Yes. You mean the home truths? Musk talks about Depop often. Yeah, apparently China is even more screwed than the West. Yeah, they're trying to yes, China is really bad too because they had the one child rule or something and it kind of like really hurt their population. But one thing that China's doing, and this is interesting because I had this guest on who his people are in the Uyghur camps. And he is like the prime minister of East Turkestan, if I remember correctly. And he was on our show, which I was tremendously grateful for. And he explained that the way that the Chinese are trying to like increase their births is essentially by intermixing Han Chinese in other parts of the world. So they're like sending, for example, they're sending Chinese people to Africa and to the United States and to Western countries. There's actually a program where they're buying babies, like IVF babies, and you'll have like a businessman or something, a Chinese businessman, and he'll essentially do IVF on like hundreds of women. Even if not all of those turn out to be full-on pregnancies, he's essentially like they're doing Genghis Khan, but like through the new technology, and then those people become they're like dual citizens, and they can come back to those are like their solutions. They're not really great, but it's like a lot of the things that China is trying to do to maintain or expand its population, which is it's sad because it could have just been the old-fashioned way, and the mess China's in is because of communist policies that were from Mao. So Jan Newman says feminism is like a 304's charter. One child policy fucked over China. Yeah, 100%. Tate underestimates the amount of morons who would coddle the aliens and try to protect them. Well, even the women, right? They'd actually go protest them. And the aliens would know, like, you could literally have the aliens from Mars Attacks and the women would sympathize. And they did in the movie, if you remember correctly. It was the hippies, the intellectuals, and the women that ended up like allowing the Martians to like kill everybody, and the warmongers were like framed as the bad guys. Genghis Khan X Neo. Yeah. Anyway, so John, did you want to say anything, or are you just listening? You're just hanging out? That's okay. That's okay. So yeah, I mean, I was just like coming on here, take the temperature, like I said. I saw some interesting clips going around, some interesting posts going around, and I thought I would like talk about it. Some studies, women welcome aliens, ack. Yes. If a system of cooperation is most beneficial to them, they will support it. If a system of cheating is most beneficial to them, they will support it. Richard Bier says, it's funny how China has a significant population of leftover women who eschew marriage and parenthood in favor of career ambitions and designer handbags. Is that funny or is that normal? Night Motorcyclist says, white women are the ones who fomented hate against white males. Yeah, that's another thing I see a lot too is, like they call it anti-white male stuff, but it really is just men. Although white men are like at the top of the list of people to hate because of the progressive stack, but it is ultimately all men. White men are too cucked and think they can't have white babies. Yeah, white men need to put their foot down when it comes to white women. Oh, but that means that the men will have to take the lead. Do we want that? I mean, I'm for it, but I mean, like, how are we going to square that circle? I think ultimately men are going to have to be the ones because women are not going to do it. I don't think they're going to do it. I think that in a way, some people have argued, and I see there's some reason to believe this. Some people have argued that what we're going through is a gigantic shit test. And the women are like doing a shit test. And all of this is happening because we haven't called them on their bluff yet. I don't know what you guys think about that, but yeah. Richard Pierre says, a Malcolm and Simone video about the population decline in India. Not sure if that's necessarily a bad thing, though. Well, it's everywhere. It's bad. It is bad, but it's bad everywhere. Yeah. I mean, even in I think the only places where it's not bad are like third world countries in Africa, but because they do have a higher replacement rate, like there's more people having babies, but those babies are not necessarily surviving. So it's because you end up in a scenario where you are producing children in one or two climates. Like it's either one where you're very, very selective and you don't have many, but you're like getting the fittest ones. And that's more like the West. And then you have the ones where, life is cheap and people are more likely to just get killed in some kind of a raid or a, like a bombing or something, like you're in a war-torn country. And so you might have as many kids as you could because, they could just die at any moment. And I think in a lot of those third world countries, that's what there are people having more babies because the instinct is to have more babies. But that doesn't mean necessarily that they're doing well. Although I think Islamic nations are doing okay. Like they talk about how in the UK, there were a record number of abortions, but amongst the native whites of the UK, like the Brits, the English, right? So like all of the migrants, even though they're still a minority, they're not getting abortions because they have like a religious belief that's against that. And not only that, but the Islamic ones are even like they have a conqueror mindset. So that's like, if we have more babies than the natives, then we win. Like they literally have said they would conquer the West, not by the sword, but by the womb. And they're doing it. And their women are falling in line. So like, or they're at least wanting to support their people and they're having their babies. Meanwhile, English women are killing their babies. So, and this is the thing, like everybody's talking about, what do we do about like the migrant problem and all that? And it's like, yeah, okay, we should push for, you should push for deportations and re-immigration or remigration, all of these things. But like, if women aren't having your kids, that doesn't matter, right? So like, you got to address that. And the problem with that is that it's an ideological problem. You have to kill the ideology that's convincing women that the way that they should be living is to not have kids because they have to be girl bosses or something, right? And that they should abort their babies and that's cool to do. And you have to make it very, very unfashionable because unfortunately that's what women react to. They react to what's fashionable. They react to what the peer pressure of what everyone around them is doing. They're looking around to see what they have to conform to, and they will conform to it. And that's another thing too. If the Islamic nations start to overtake the English ones and they alter the culture enough, then white women will just convert because they're going to go with what everyone else is doing. And I think that that's likely what's going to happen. So Basically, if you have a significant dysgenic population, it wouldn't be the worst outcome if that population were to decline. Perhaps the lack of sanitation is contributing factor too. Yeah, but in India, it's a caste system. So like people in the lower classes are the ones you're thinking about. But like the people, the Brahmin, I think they're called the Brahmin Indians, they're not living in shit. Like they're probably doing pretty good, right? I think it's in India's class system is what I think is something that has to be taken into consideration as well. Let's see. We won't go extinct. Japan and other Asian countries are working on it. Where they can create offspring without female involvement. Women should be happy about not having to be birthing machines. I don't know, man. That I have ethical problems with that. I mean, and I think that the whole like artificial womb test tube baby thing is a pipe dream. I just don't. I don't think we should rely on that, on these artificial methods. Because even then, like who are you putting in charge of your kids now? You know, like are you gonna raise your Gattaca baby in like a school? Is that gonna be a government school? Like there's too many things to take into consideration. I don't think that that's something we should put our bets into. We're really a long ways off from artificial wombs. Yeah. How many Muslim men get divorced and taken to the cleaners at family court? Well, I don't think it happens that often, but I don't know. I have to look at the data. That'd be interesting to see. Artificial wombs, I'm sure Elon's on the job. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I think, and even if the technology is somewhat viable, it's like really far away right now. I bet women would still complain if men got rid of periods for women. Plus, women would probably be against artificial wombs anyways. Like we already did a show yesterday where we talked about how they're working on some technology that they can create like eggs, like women, like eggs for fertilization from like skin cells. And, I think Hannah took it in a whole other direction, but that technology is still far a ways off as well. But I think that women are going to probably, maybe even just out of spite, like go back to having babies again just to avoid that. So I'm homeschooling my Astro Boy. Yeah. Some of the higher class Indian women are pretty much white. Yeah. Men would make the world perfect for women and they'd still find something wrong. Well, that's the joke about the Garden of Eden, right? That Adam and Eve were in the garden and Adam was turned to Eve and he said, look at us. We'll live forever. We'll never go hungry. Everything is beautiful. All the animals get along. It's paradise. Like we'll never be sick. We'll never grow old. And Eve was like, yeah, it's just not enough, is it? And that's kind of how the whole thing started. Just like women who found the perfect man still divorce him to find something more. Well, that's because they're looking for the wrong thing. Jan Newman says, I knew one for 2 years before she pointed out she was 3/4 Indian. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, we like to, I think online, people like to oversimplify all these things. And like, I don't want India to collapse. Like I mean, I want it to be its own sovereign nation like any other nation should be sovereign. And I like that those people have their own thing going on. I don't necessarily want them to bring everything over here. But, as Rowan Atkinson said, now that we have the recipe for tikka masala, we can just make it ourselves. Daniel Forgak says, coincidentally, all the researchers get letter bombs and their houses burnt down and had to shut down artificial wombs or UN labeled or unlabeled them crimes against humanity and got arrested. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. And that's why I think that like we're getting way ahead of ourselves when we start talking about, like making babies from scratch, like cloning babies and artificial wombs and even like women to freeze sperm. Like 80% of the sperm that women try to get out of a sperm bag, 80% of the time it doesn't work. So it's like, why are you doing this the hard way? Just go find a good man, be good to him, and then have his babies. Just stop it with all this, because this is how you get into this designer baby thing too, is that like this comes from entitlement, right? Like where I live, people, this part of Virginia. So like Virginia's fucked, okay? Like Abigail Spanberger is the governor, and she's a straight up communist that ran as a moderate to trick people, and now she's like raising taxes and doing all kinds of crazy shit with gun laws. And Lindsay and I are like seriously considering moving to Indiana. Not because of her, but also because I want to be closer to my family anyway. But she's like, you know, just she's gonna destroy the state. Like, I think like it's over. And Jay Jones, you know, he was like celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, like it was crazy. And he's like, you know, her right hand man, right? And but my point is this: the reason why she got in was because of Northern Virginia. Like, you know, people from DC, Richmond. There's a couple of other cities in the northern part that are basically just cooked, and they basically affect the politics of the whole state. But where I live, it's like far south, right? Southern Virginia is like Libertarianville. Like, there's like yellow Gadsden flags everywhere. Paul Elam lives out here with his arsenal of guns. Everybody's got guns. I love it. I love that about this place. But what I also notice is there's a lot of churches, right? So a lot of people are very religious here. And I don't think people get abortions, like not that often. And and what I noticed is that there are a lot of people who have kids that have, you know, not that this is like fairly common, but they have kids that have issues. Like maybe they have autism, maybe they have Down syndrome, maybe they have, you know, some other thing, a skin condition or something, right? And or they're dwarves. I've seen that too. Or they have hormonal problems. Like I've seen women with hair on their face, right? But the thing about it is that what it tells me is that they had their children despite the fact that they likely knew that their kids were going to be born with problems because they didn't believe in killing their babies. And what that does, what I noticed is that it changes this attitude of like, if I have a kid, I want my kid to be perfect, to I will love my child no matter what. And they do. And a lot of these kids, you know, like there's kids with Down syndrome that work at Walmart, that work at the grocery store. They have jobs. They're good people. They're fun to be around, right? And the reason why I bring on all that up is this stuff about like artificial wombs and like, you know, IVF and frozen sperm. I think it's especially in the sort of like urban monoculture, like the people who, you know, are kind of like the where the offals come from, the affluent white female libs. They believe that for whatever reason their genetics deserve a perfect baby, and so they're the ones that are like, they want to use all that technology to maximize, like they do with when they select a man, right? They want to like get the 6 foot, the 6-pack, the 6 figures. They're looking for that for their kids too. They want them to be, you know, genetically different. They want to give birth to little Patrick Bateman babies, and I think that's a problem because they don't actually love their kids. It's like because they're not taking it as fate would have it, and they're also making decisions about who to reproduce with based on what they want. So that's limiting them too, you know. So that's another thing that I worry about. Modern women wouldn't like conversion to Islam. Yeah, they might have to though if Islam becomes a majority, and they will. They tend to conform. But yeah, they may not be happy about it. Pepina says it's got to be 999%. Yes, Richard Pierre says, I suspect that until the population gets to a critical minimum number, there isn't much incentive to reproduce for the next generation. Oh no, this is it, man. This is our last chance. Like infrastructure, we're basically like if you do, like you'll start seeing the effects in other countries first, like South Korea primarily. When their infrastructure starts failing, then if people are paying attention, I think that's going to be the fire under their ass. Arc Tempo says, I wouldn't be surprised if they then try to sleep with said perfect men, LOL. Yeah, that's true. So anyway, let me see. So nobody joined the call, huh? We had some people, and somebody even had their hand up, but then they left. And now I got like one guy. I feel personally hurt by that. Jokingly, of course. Yeah, of course. Opening sequence from Idiocracy. Yeah, that's not really true though, because the thing is that there is a regression to the mean and the idea that dumb people reproducing makes people more dumb is not true. Like you're gonna get more averages, and if anything, so Idiocracy wasn't quite right on that. And also geniuses, never having kids. I don't know. So, but I mean, I get what Mike Judge was trying to say, but I mean, like, what was he ultimately trying to say? Like that dumb people should not have kids, or that smart people should have kids? Like, I mean, I don't know. Okay, so Morgan joined the chat. Do you want to say anything, Morgan? We got 15 minutes, and then I gotta go to get some dinner. So, let's see. Are traders worth championing for men, though? What do you mean by traders? I don't understand that statement. Daniel Forak says, there is no good men in their mind. Only ones who pretend / good are boring. Yes. Let's see. Richard Beer, the existence of Somalia is a counter argument. Well, there's a lot of inbreeding in Somalia. There's a lot of inbreeding. Now, that's a different problem. And that's another thing that nobody wants to talk about, is the degree to which inbreeding is an issue. So here's a tweet by Devin Erickson, who says, no, women are not retarded. They are conformist. Okay, and this is what I was saying. Hello, Lux P. Welcome to the chat. So Devin Erickson says, to actually fall for narratives like COVID, the BLM story, the ISIS Gestapo story, to actually wholeheartedly believe them, yeah, you would have to be kind of retarded. But women didn't fall for these stories, not exactly, they aligned to them. This means they went along with them, repeated them, reinforced them, not because they were convinced by evidence, but because they were convinced by the appearance of consensus. And it's interesting because when Helen Andrews wrote her piece on the great feminization, and she makes appearances, she talks about how the problem when you reach a critical mass of women in any given space is that it changes the space, and it does become less about objectivity and more about consensus. So, okay, let's see what you guys are saying here. Last independent speaker said, the space doesn't show up for me as I'm in Oz. You mean like the land of Oz, like with the wizard? CS person says, retarded MAGA. I don't know what gives you that impression. Companioning. Oh, I thought you said championing. Did I read that wrong? Oh, yeah, no, you're right. Men being companions to women, those who will turn on them before the wedding cake goes stale. MAGA sucks Satan's cock. Truth. Oh, well, I guess, okay. I mean, if that's what you believe. Okay, I think I've given you enough attention, CS person. I'm not going to do that. All right. So, anyway, no requests. All right, so where was I? So women are evolved to believe what the rest of the tribe appears to believe. Evidence is not considered. Why? Well, humans are smart. We survive by being smart, and in order to be smart, we need to grow big brains and get started growing those brains early, which means human babies have giant heads. In order to deliver those giant heads, human babies have to be born prematurely. Otherwise, heads won't fit through the pelvic girdle, and baby and mother both die. This means all human babies are premature. Well, is it? That's why horses can run at the age of 6 hours, but humans can't lift our giant heads for months. This means that human women, whether they are pregnant with a giant-headed baby, caring for a giant-headed baby, or just might be either one at any moment, are uniquely helpless and dependent on support and goodwill of the tribe. Yeah, we know all that stuff. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but yeah, women are conformists. That makes sense. There's safety and consensus, exactly. Let's see. Upside down land, also known as Australia. Right. That's what I thought, but he didn't. He just said Oz. That could also be the land of Oz. Yeah. Do they have a yellow brick road in Australia? I mean, I've been there, but I was only in like Sydney and Melbourne, so I don't really know. But yeah, so I think that, like I was saying before, So I think that in order for us to start fixing these things, it begins with the acknowledgement of women as agents that can, essentially do things of their own free will, and that some of those things are not good things. And that this women is wonderful or golden uterus effect is starting to lose its luster for some. So, I bet Australian bricks are poisonous. yeah, right. It's a contact poison. All right. Anyway, so let me see. What do you guys? Any super chats? By the way, we're almost at the end of the month, so the fundraiser is almost up. I'm a little worried. Allison couldn't do a show today. She has like a really bad migraine, so that's why I'm doing this, and I'm taking calls. So I'm sure she'll be fine, but just couldn't do the show today. And sorry for the sort of like last minute stream in a way. Like I set it up about an hour before it was time to go live. I just didn't have all of my information that I needed to start the show until that moment. So January was wild. Oh, Great Indoors sent a super shout. Thank you, Great Indoors. Really appreciate it. Yesterday, when HBR was, of course, talking about Minneapolis, because that's the hotbed for politics at the moment, there was a brief moment about black pills, white pills, etc. Maybe this is more of an Oreo moment where things look bad because they are bad. However, there might be a positive reason behind it. Could it be that the increase in violence, the insane takes anti-ICE people, the realization that it's impossible for anyone to take a neutral position, etc., is all because the left cannot hide behind their rhetoric anymore, and because they have basically flattened all of their moral hills in order to score on the short term. People are forced to choose, and the people on their side don't seem to have any concern for their own safety or their children's safety, which is a tragedy. Sorry for the long comment. No, that's fair. So yeah, I think that what's going on is the left is accelerating because they're starting to lose their grip on reality, and instead they're just exposing themselves. I think that was going on since maybe like the attempt on Trump's life in 2024. I think because it didn't happen, I think that they kind of lost it, and then the mask came all the way off. Or maybe like right before then. But I know that you saw how the people reacted when they learned that he didn't die. And that was all over TikTok. And this guy in the special chat is sort of proving my point as well. Spurging out, if that's even a man. It might not be, I don't know. But yeah, so I think that it's the slow march has become like a full sprint. And they're not hiding it because they're trying to accelerate as much as possible. I don't know what that means, but I do think that it's better that we know what's going on and have it like up front than the covert way it's been going on forever. Also, I think people are waking up. They know a lot of people now. They saw Yuri Bezmenov's infamous interview clips. They know about the long march through the institutions. They know about the truth about feminism, or at least like what they call modern feminism. I think that's like another bugaboo that we have to like slay, another myth. But yeah, I think that people are waking up to this stuff. So, FAFO all over, yeah. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I don't want to be cruel, but it is a tragedy. Like the thing is too that these people they're getting to the point now where they see themselves as heroic martyrs. So like what they're actually, and they're doing the dirty work of like real revolutionaries that don't put themselves at risk, right? So yeah, and I know Allison says it's all like graft and like it's just a money grab, and sure that's true, but I think that the thing is corruption exists regardless, but I think there are people who are fundamentally trying to destroy everything. But they're not going to be the ones to put their necks on the line. They're going to have useful idiots do it for them. So you guys saw the clip of the woman who grabbed a flashbang? Like, I don't think that woman was in on the graft. And I don't think that you could convince her that she was being used, right? That she's like a puppet for something else. whether that something is a government or a scam or communists, she wouldn't realize that because she was saving people who are less fortunate. That's how she sees herself. And it's like these people, they think that they're in a movie because they're so safe. Like they live in such a safe society that when they are actually faced with the reality of what violence is, they don't know like how to understand or process that. And so you get people grabbing flashbangs like they're John Wick, like they think they can throw it right back. Like they're playing. Is it one of those Call of Duty games where if somebody throws a grenade and you're quick, you can throw the grenade back at them? You know, like that's. I mean, I don't know what else they thought it was. Like they thought they were playing COD or something or Black Ops 2. You know, and yeah, it was a woman that did that. And it was, and again, I'm not happy that happened. I think that's tragic. But it's like, where do they get that? Like this delusion? Where does it come from? Like I think there's a lot of really mentally ill people that are being used in this stuff, right? People who, I don't know, like they need like a different life path, and they feel really, they're kind of self-hating, like they just feel like they're, or at least they're indulging in this as a LARP, you know, like they're pretending to like be subservient to like, I don't know, more what they would consider to be more oppressed groups of people, but because there are a lot of women there, we tend to see them as the victims regardless. So Badass Dan says heroic martyrs for illegals and criminals, what a wasted life. Yes, the useful idiots afoot. War really does give our lives meaning. Well, they want a heroic narrative. They want to like fight against evil, right? So they found something that they think is evil and they're fighting against it. And they think that makes them the hero. So Mangaka says, Mr. President, another wave of retarded women has been released. Gabriel says they think they'll respawn. Marin Ribarek says, wow, was curious about this Spurg out, was not disappointed. Yes. Yeah. Justifiable crash out, I guess. Richard Beer says, well, there's that audio clip of Renee's partner shouting, why are you using real bullets? Yeah. Or again, were you expecting like pink lasers? Set ICE agents, set your photon things to stun. Pepina says the LARP is afoot. Anyway, some of the jokes are just gold. Yeah. All right. Well, okay, last chance, guys, that are in the Twitter. Last chance to say something. I'm going to be closing it out here in a second. I know maybe you just want to lurk. That's okay. You can lurk if you want to. They are hell spawns. No respawning is possible. Respawn denied. All right. Well, I guess that's it then. Well, you know what? This was still a good chat with you guys in the live chat. Thanks for joining me on the stream again. Looks like we had a decent number of people hanging out. That's cool. Just crouch in the corner. Yeah, take cover and regenerate. Use a stim pack. Yes, deport illegals. Yes, we should do that. Exactly. All right. Anyway, thanks guys for coming on the stream and hanging out. What do you guys think? I think I wanted to use this to highlight, like I said, the conversation seems to be like going on everywhere, and I love to see that. I think that, that Andrew Wilson was on Joe Rogan. I already told you. I'm going to have to watch it when I get a chance, because I want to see if the men's issues comes up. I mean, this is kind of like how he built his platform, was debating about feminism. So even if it's just an anti-feminist conversation, I'm here for it 100%, but I'll have to check it out. And this is good. This means, like I said, this is getting out there. And, the base camp people have given us a shout out a couple times. And I think that we're definitely reaching people, or at least the conversation is. So thanks guys for coming on the stream. We'll see you guys in the next time. But wait, let me start this all over. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed in the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. And lastly, if you could, please consider donating to our monthly fundraiser. I know Allison doesn't like when I use the word donate. Supporting our local fundraiser so that we can continue to bring you this content and do this work, because I honestly do think that it is having an impact, and I hope that I can do this for a little while longer. All right, thank you guys so much for coming on this episode of the Twitter Space, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.